des médias s'accentuent juste.
It's all about searching for opportunities.
Minister Hansen, thank you for being with us, representing the government. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's obviously a very moving moment to be addressing you here today. I've been speaking from this desk many times, but I never thought that I would one day speak to you as a Doctor honoris causa from this place. I don't know exactly where to start, and before really entering into the subject that I have chosen for the speech, and I hope your expectations are not too high, because as you know, we had to postpone the ceremony from yesterday to today, because as you know, there's one student in the Eurozone that is not as good as the others. And so we had an emergency meeting of the Eurogroup yesterday. So my apologies for those who were maybe not informed of the change, and my regrets for those who couldn't make it on this day. I thought that maybe the most important thing is to thank all those who came, who are friends. Most of them, I really mean, are friends or very important people to me in my professional life. So first I have already thanked him, Patrick Hansen, because we are sharing the work together on an everyday basis in government, and it's a wonderful and challenging task at the same time. And probably the best part of the week, to tell you the truth, in the job of minister, as this government is every Friday morning when we meet together. Now, probably many of you will not believe it, but it's the truth. Then I'd like to thank all the friends and collaborators in the Ministry of Finance who have supported me from day one, and a couple of them are here in the room. Without them, I couldn't do my job as I do it, and without their professionalism, Luxembourg wouldn't be the country it is today. Then I would like to thank all those who have a link with diplomacy around the room. You know that has been a job that I've done for 20 years, and one day I used a wrong expression by saying, in the past, I was a diplomat, and someone said to me, what a strange sentence. He said, once a diplomat, always a diplomat. And so now I don't use that phrase anymore. I think he was really right. Then obviously I think of the Chamber of Commerce that I had the pleasure to lead together with the present President Michel Wurth. It was a fascinating time. We've done a lot together, and I'm pleased that Carlo Thelen, my successor, is here today too. And we've worked a lot together also. So it's very nice to be back, and it's nice to see also so many friends from the business associations, and so many friends now also from business in general and from the banking community who are here today. I'd also like to say hello to those people I have met through different activities I've done. I think of the Red Cross. I think of something that probably few of you know, which is the Fondation Bassin Minier. I'm not going to explain what it is, because I want you to stay curious and look it up as soon as I finish my speech. I'd like to mention the tennis club Esch. There's a couple of members in the room. This is the last position I resigned in government, because I thought I could keep that one, and then it was deemed that it is a potential conflict of interest. I really don't know how that's possible, but then I had to do it. Before that, I had already resigned from the Board of Regents of Sacred Heart, where we are today. And probably it's good I resigned, because otherwise maybe they could not have conferred to me the Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. So thanks for bestowing that on me and for trusting me all those years. And my advice must have been good, otherwise they wouldn't have rewarded me today. So I'd like to thank the Board of Regents, its President Norbert Becker, Dr. Petillo, who unfortunately cannot be here with us tonight, Jim Morley, the President of the Board of Trustees back in Connecticut, all the alumni. I know there's many of them that are here today. Then I'd like to do something which probably is unusual. I'd like to honor those friends of mine that I've been knowing since I'm 6 years old. Two of them are here in the room, Christian Schack and Jean-Pierre Claes, who I saw come in. And there's one who really wanted to be here. He could have been here yesterday, but he couldn't make it today, which is François Bilche. So 3 boys of Esch-sur-Alzette, with whom we have started together in primary school, and we have never lost sight of each other, and it's so nice that you are here today. And then I would also like to mention one particular couple of friends from Italy. I don't know if they have come all the way from Milano to be here, because they live half in Clairvaux and half in Milano, the Rodolfo and Patrizia De Biquet. We've been knowing each other also forever, and there are other Italian friends in the room. I'm so glad that Rolf underlined how important my Italian origins are for me, as they are for my whole family. And I'm so proud of my daughters, that's true. And one of the things I'm most proud of is that I don't know how they managed, they also learned Italian. So you see the tradition goes on. And when I met my wife, she also didn't speak Italian, so she now speaks Italian too, and so now it's perfect. If only her Luxembourgish would come along so well. But as Rolf Tarrach said, nobody's perfect. For the rest, Sylvie is. Rolf, you did a wonderful speech. You told me this is the first time since you've been in Luxembourg that you wrote a speech. That's wonderful, so I'll be able to enjoy it again and again and reading it. It's an interesting twist of life that I could say a few words when you left the Luxembourg University, and today you do this speech. You have, I was about to say, you have changed the university landscape here. I should say you have crafted it. And that deserves a lot of admiration and thanks. And I think it's also a nice twist that you are here today at Sacred Heart University, because Sacred Heart University is, or was, the first university actor here in Luxembourg as a full-fledged university 22 years ago. They started here in the Chamber of Commerce, where they still are. And I'm glad that we have more and more actors at the university level that are present here. I have to now go a little bit into the speech, and thanking again all of you coming also. I see many colleagues, ambassadors of wonderful countries, not only Italy, who are here today. And now I will then do something that the Japanese like to do a lot when they start a speech. They apologize. And I've taken that habit. I don't do it all the time, but today I'll do it. I have to apologize for my long speech, because I didn't have time to prepare a short one. And this is a wonderful sentence by Descartes. And he was so right. It's much more difficult to make a good short speech than a bad long speech. But here I had not enough time, so bear with me. I chose a little bit of a strange subject, the role of the Minister of Finance of Luxembourg in the year 2030. Obviously it means that you have to look into the future. And then you could consider 15 years is far away. Who knows what's going to happen? But let's just look back 15 years. What was the case 15 years ago? The year 2000 was a little bit of a science fiction year. The euro didn't exist. In 2000, we were only 15 countries in the European Union. Today we are 28. We are 19 in the Eurozone, so 19 have the euro. What a change. So there were no bills around with the euro. There was no smartphone, there was no iPad. Google was already there, 2 years old, but it was only known as a company. It had not yet become a verb. Bill Clinton was president of the United States. I miss him. His wife too, she might come back. And maybe the most important of all, in the year 2000, you could still catch a plane in a hurry without having to undress and eventually having a drink with you while going into the aircraft. We know that since September 11, all this is not possible anymore. And September 11 has been such an important event. It has changed our lives positively and negatively. So I think it's very important to keep that in mind. In fact, rules about confidentiality, exchange of information, all subjects that we talk all along every day in Luxembourg and in the financial center, all go back to September 11. So what can we expect for the future? Well, I think Luxembourg will have around 700,000 people at least, if we continue to grow at the same pace as today. Western Europe, according to a study by Roland Berger, will need 50 million more people from outside Europe to just guarantee the growth. And the growth is not that big in Europe, but we need 50 million people, 4 million alone in Germany. We will have growing population, global warming, and stress on energy and stress on food. All that will cause lots of movements of population, will cause stress on global warming, and provoke stress situations and wars. We know that this is unavoidable. So, in this context, what can be the role of a finance minister of Luxembourg or any other European country in 15 years from now? Obviously, there's never a sure thing. One thing I know about the Minister of Finance of Luxembourg in the year 2030 is it's not going to be me. I hope I will still be alive. I also hope that I'll be elected one day, so not for those reasons. No, it's just because the referendum, one of the referendum that this government is planning, has in its questions that you should not stay in the same position as a government member for more than 10 years. So even if I extend 9 more years, it doesn't bring me to 2030. So my successor, I hope, will be a bright lady, because we don't have enough ladies in that position. If I look at the Eurozone, out of 19 finance ministers, only Portugal has a lady as a finance minister. Brilliant, and we should have more of these. And I hope that my faraway successor will have a good legacy, that the budgetary plans that we have submitted and passed through Parliament in December will have worked well, so that what I am anticipating, that we will have a real balanced budget in the year 2018, will also be true in 2030, that Luxembourg will not have to borrow more money on the markets, and that the sovereign fund that we have enacted just a month ago will be full of money, replenished billions of euros in that fund for the future generations. That's what we have decided to do, and I hope that my faraway successor will be able to enjoy that. Now, the role of this future minister, will it be bigger and more important than today or less? And I think that the answer depends on how the European Union, the European integration will evolve. So let's take first hypothesis that the European Union integration will continue, that we will have a stronger partnership between ourselves, between the Euro countries, between the other countries that don't have the Euro. But as we know, it's easily said, it's not so easily done. With the help of Bob Kiefer, who helped me put together lots of information for this speech, he found a quote of someone who is not that famous, but he would deserve to be it. He was the president of the Swiss National Bank back in 1993. And this gentleman, whose last name was Thomas, said that in 1993, he said there's only 4 countries who would qualify for the euro. That was France, Germany, UK, and Luxembourg. He added that he thought that a couple of other countries could never make it because they had too much debt, and he mentioned Ireland, Italy, Belgium, and Greece. And then he said something that in that time very, very few people were saying. He said, because there are these discrepancies, he said there will be transfers of money to those countries that have too much debt, and there's going to be bailout of countries. You see, there were people who were thinking ahead already then. And what I'm just saying, it sounds like the stories we've been living the last 3 years. And having come back from Brussels yesterday, you know that we have a challenging task in front of us to do and to face the situation of Greece. This being said, 3 years ago, we really had a major crisis of the European Union, because at that time we still had not figured out how to cope with the problems that the central bank, the president of Switzerland, had raised 20 years before. In 1993, he had said, how do you deal with transfers? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the solvability of banks? And so the answer has finally come in the aftermath of this crisis with the banking union, with the two-pack, the six-pack. It's a little bit technical, but in the end with the Schuldenbremse, a limiting of the debt. And so today Europe is much stronger than it was a couple of years ago. And I think that we have also, with the permanent presidency of the Eurogroup, we see where the trend is going. My guess is that in 15 years from now, the Eurozone will be even stronger than today. And in that sense, I'm also very confident that we can challenge and face the Greek situation, because we have the tools, we have the instruments to face the situation. And I think the fact that the toolbox is nearly complete now will also help us find the right solution with our Greek friends and partners. This being said, when we look into the future, something that we Luxembourgers are very interested in is what is going to be the situation in terms of taxation in the future. Is there going to be a common budget policy? And we know there's already quite a lot of it today, but what about taxation in 15 years? Now, here it's also only a guessing game. The horror scenario is the following. European Union countries have finally agreed in the period in between that we should harmonize everything in terms of taxation. And so the bad news, I tell you, for your children, the VAT rate in Europe will be 29%. Because if there's no competition in terms of taxation, taxes will go up all the time. And if that were to be the case, Europe would become a kind of desert in terms of foreign investment, because not only 29% of VAT would be applicable, but other rates of taxation I don't even dare tell you. So I hope that we will remain reasonable in Europe and consider that a limited amount or a certain amount of competition in taxation is good to stay attractive. Which means at the same time, because we are in a common European Union, we should avoid abuses. But we live today in a world where tax transparency is becoming the most talked subject about, and maybe it has become an evidence. And I think we will not be able to escape that transparency. We have reformed a lot in Luxembourg in 2014, and we'll do the same in 2015. But at a time where internet is king, where you can put whatever data on the internet whenever you want without consequences. How do you want to protect confidentiality? How do you want to protect data? It's a big issue. Now, we have this tradition in Luxembourg to protect confidentiality. We should also continue to do that in the future. But we must build our business model as if everything would be public all the time. It's only if you do it that way that you can beat the others, be more competitive. And I sometimes surprise people and journalists when they ask me, what is Luxembourg going to do when the BEPS exercise in the OECD is finished, when this X-raying of all the tax practices will be finished, and there's going to be lots of proposals and rules to be implemented. What is Luxembourg going to do? I say, Luxembourg is going to be among the first ones to implement them. Because we don't have to be afraid of these common rules. As soon as there are common rules, we can implement them, and we have a level playing field. And if we have a level playing field, we are fine. Because then we're all on the same basis, and we can play our natural advantages. So we will continue, I'm sure, to be first movers in implementing rules in taxation like in other things. Now, let's take the other hypothesis that the European Union, and I knock on wood, this is not going to happen, is not going to go stronger, is going to be weaker. The first thing that would happen, important thing for us that would happen, is that the European single market as we know it would become weaker. What could that mean? Well, we've seen an example with the e-commerce here in Luxembourg, where the taxation system has changed, and from one day to another, whilst you could choose to have one central location and do e-commerce all over the place, then for lots of reasons this is being changed, and you have to redistribute the fiscal revenues to all the countries, basically cutting into pieces again the European single market. And there are plenty of such examples. Another example that would certainly happen if Europe is becoming weaker is the hampering of the free flow of people. Now, the debate is becoming very vivid in the United Kingdom. You know that that's the major request of our British friends, to amend the treaty so that they could find limits to the free flow of people, which is one of the major achievements of the European Union single market. We see same endeavor in Switzerland, which is outside the EU, but which had free flow of people with us. So you see, this obviously for Luxembourg would be terrible news if such issues like European single market, free flow of people, would become a thing of the past. Well, our natural market would dwindle, and it would weaken our country quite a lot. And let me put it this way. If Europe would be weakened, paradoxically, I think that the future Minister of Finance of Luxembourg would be weaker than he is today, or than he would be in a strong European Union. Why do I say that? If we have a strong European Union, the Luxembourg Finance Minister is sitting around a table where he discusses the issues of the common currency, of how we manage that common area all together. Yes, he shares his power with others, but he's sitting at a very important table where the destiny of the European continent is being decided. If Europe breaks down, the table of Europe might exist but has little power, and then you are finance minister of your tiny country, and you have to find solution to national problems. Borders are not open anymore, and if borders are not open anymore, what could we do? So you see, paradoxically, I think that the finance minister in 2030 would have a lot better position if Europe is successful. So, having discussed that, I come to the last part of my speech to say, now that I've talked about the role of the future finance minister of Luxembourg, how will Luxembourg look in 2030? And there I will limit myself to what is my ministerial competence. That means limit myself to Luxembourg as a financial center. How do I see our country in 15 years from now? I think that we will be stronger than today, and I say 5 reasons for that. First of all, I'm very confident that this government, as the previous ones and the next ones, will continue to try to diversify our economy. The financial sector will probably stay the most important one, but we must continue diversification. Point number 2 is why I'm very confident is fintech, finance and technology. Where these two meet, there's a lot of potential. As we speak, we have already today 150 companies in that field that are active here. We have some world champions of fintech here. I give you examples, the Amazons, e-commerce, or the e-payment companies like PayPal of the United States. But we also have actors like Alibaba from China or Rakuten from Japan who are present here. Rakuten gives me the right passage, the right link to the third reason why I'm optimistic. Rakuten has just asked a couple of months ago and has received last week, I had the pleasure to sign it, an agreement to have a banking license here in Luxembourg. What does that tell us? Here is a company, for those who don't know it, Rakuten is the largest e-commerce and e-payment company in Japan. And they are asking for a banking license. It is telling us that the banking world is changing because everything is going to be, or the large part is going to be online, so it's a different world. The newcomers don't have to invest as much as the old banks into the infrastructure. It's all, you don't have to have all these retail offices, lots of costs that you save. And you come from another side, you come with already hundreds of thousands and millions of customers who are already trustful to you, who already know you. So you see, banking is going to change a lot. Paying will be done with your watch or with your glasses or something like that, with a button push. My guess is there will be no bills in the year 2030, only coins, because payment will be electronically done, digitally. And Luxembourg will probably also, because of that, play an interesting role. I come back to it. What currencies, that's the fourth reason why I'm optimistic, what currencies will there be in Luxembourg in those years, in 2030? Well, obviously the US dollar will still be around, the euro will have strengthened, and the renminbi will probably be competing with both of these currencies as a reserve currency. Maybe even the renminbi will be by far the largest reserve currency, because trade of China will be 3 times or 5 times that of the United States. Maybe the trade of China will be more than the rest of the world altogether. And the fact that we have 6 Chinese banks here in Luxembourg, a clearing bank here in Luxembourg, tells me that Luxembourg is already now an important hub for the internationalization of the renminbi. So I'm very, very optimistic for Luxembourg in that sense. But to make the whole thing even more complicated, I think that in the year 2030, there's going to be another currency that all of us totally underestimate, and that is virtual currencies. Virtual currencies might become the hit of the next 10 years. And while preparing this, I said to myself, maybe in the year 2030, that's why I said we're going to have only coins. Not only because people pay digitally, but because they use virtual currencies. They use the currencies that the Amazons of tomorrow or the Apples of tomorrow will give you. If you buy your Apple computer, sorry for the publicity, with my virtual currency, you get a 10% rebate. If you pay it with US dollars, you get 10% penalty because the dollar is not strong. It's another world. So my guess is that the virtual currency will have an important role in the business to consumer, but I think governments, that's my guess, in the year 2030 will have declared that virtual currencies cannot be used in the B2B business. Why is that? Well, if we don't limit virtual currencies, well, at the end, what will the central banks do? Lots of unemployed people in the end, because if you have virtual currencies, well, you do not control the monetary mass anymore. So I think that Luxembourg is right to be quite keen on virtual currencies. We're the first country that has given a regulation to virtual currency by just stating that the payment directive of the EU is applicable to virtual currency. So it's a little bit technical, but it was a simple decision that has helped us a lot. Will we also be still attractive as a wealth management center tomorrow? That's the second big question. I think yes, if we manage 2 or 3 things. The first thing is the population of bankable people, that means the population in developing or emerging countries, that will be rich people, will increase very fast. And we must find those people, touch those people. And what's going to help us is obviously the internet and SAS, the satellite company of Luxembourg, which has a plan which is called 3 other billion, if I remember correctly, to try to reach people in far away places. So you see, we are very well positioned to reach these people that are in far away markets. And I think that our generous development aid policy is going also to open quite a few doors for us. Second, I think we will be successful in attracting high net worth individuals for many reasons. Point number 1, that's also a clin d'oeil, is because foreigners will have voting right in Luxembourg in the year 2030, for sure. Maybe this will happen already this year, depending on how the referendum goes for voting rights for foreigners. But even in the year 2030, I tell you, Luxembourg will still be one of the rare, maybe the only country in the world where foreigners can participate to national elections. So I knock on wood that we can do it maybe already in 2015. We will still be a very multilingual country. We will have received in the year 2030 a new Nobel Prize for multilingual schools and education. And we would have been rewarded there because no other country would teach 5 languages. We were alone in the run, but all the others were jealous. So I'm very optimistic for that too. Last but not least, on a very serious note, let's hope that our country will be as safe as it is today. Our capital has been ranked for many years in a row the safest capital in the world. And obviously, that is quality of life that will attract lots of people to our country. Third thing, and then I come to the conclusion. In a world that becomes richer, with discrepancies between poor and rich, I think that the philosophy of giving is going to evolve. And you can see that already a lot in the United States, where rich people tend not anymore to give their money to non-profit organizations that are existing, but to imagine their own philanthropic foundation, their own venture, where they can influence what is going to be done with the money they give. And so you can call that in many ways. You can call it impact charity, can call it whatever you want. And it's something that I have discovered in my new job, because that's exactly what the Fondation de Luxembourg does. So helping people how to give their money and give them a structure. And if I'm so pleased today to receive this award from Sacred Heart, is because when I received it, I asked Norbert Becker why I received this. And I said, probably it's because I've been doing well as a diplomat or as Chamber of Commerce director or eventually as minister. I said, but that's too short. And he said, you're wrong with all the above. It has just to do with you as a human being and for what you do. And so I looked a little bit the mission statement, and I must say I like this objective which Sacred Heart has to prepare students to live in and make their contributions to the human community. And that's what I think we should all try to do in our life. I've tried to do it in the different jobs I've had, and I must say it's probably easier to do in Luxembourg than anywhere else. Let's be aware of the fact that we're in a country where the notion of growth is an inclusive one. Very few Luxembourgers think of growth as just economic. We include social aspects and environment. Not everybody looks at things that way. Very few countries have a fair distribution of wealth as we have it here in Luxembourg. We should be very proud of that, and we have to continue to do that and to go into that direction. So, in a nutshell, I would say when you have the chance to be living in Luxembourg, to be born in this country, it is not an option to be generous. It is a duty. And I'm going to finish with a quote, and I'm not going to say who said it because there's uncertainty about the person who said it, but maybe one of you knows the quote, and I'm finished with that. We make a living with what we get. We make a life with what we give. Thank you very much.
It's all about searching for opportunities.